Harry earned $67,000 a year as a project coordinator at a mid-sized consulting firm. Every performance review felt like a referendum on his entire future. Every time a senior role opened up, he'd refresh his inbox 20 times a day, heart racing, waiting for the call. And every time someone else got promoted, he'd smile through the team meeting, then spend the evening calculating how many more years he'd need to wait for his turn. Then he read one sentence that rewired everything. Harry's monthly take-home was around $4,100 after taxes and benefits. Rent took $1,400. Student loans another $520. Groceries, gas, insurance, subscriptions. By the time he added it up, he had maybe $900 left each month. He wasn't living large. He wasn't even comfortable. He was treading water, waiting for the promotion that would finally give him breathing room. He'd been at the company 3 years. Started as an assistant, moved to coordinator, watched 5 people leapfrog past him into senior roles. Each time, HR said the same thing: keep developing your skills. Your time will come. So he took the extra training, volunteered for the tough projects, stayed late, said yes to everything. He thought that's how it worked: you earn the title, then you earn the money, then you build the life. But his savings account told a different story. $2,300 total. No emergency fund.
No investments.
Just a growing knot in his chest every time he opened his banking app. One weekend, Harry's older cousin visited from out of state. They grabbed coffee, and Harry vented about the latest promotion he didn't get. His cousin listened, then said something that stopped him cold: "You're optimizing for the wrong variable." He slid a book across the table, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. "Read chapter 4, he said. "Then tell me if you still think the promotion matters." That night, Harry read it. The chapter wasn't about salary. It wasn't about career ladders. It was about control. Housel wrote that the highest form of wealth is waking up every morning and being able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want. And that power doesn't come from a title. It comes from how much of your life you own. Harry sat back. He'd been chasing a $15,000 raise, maybe $20,000 if he was lucky. But even if he got it, he'd still owe the same loans. Still rent the same apartment. Still feel trapped, just with a better business card. He opened a notes app and typed one question: what if I stopped waiting for permission to build wealth? The next morning, Harry ran the numbers differently. If he got promoted, his take-home might jump to $4,900 a month, an extra $800. But after lifestyle creep, maybe he'd save $400 of that. $400 a month. $4,800 a year. In 5 years, assuming he got promoted within the year, he'd have maybe $24,000 saved, not accounting for inflation or unexpected expenses. He stared at the number. 5 years of grinding, politicking, waiting. For $24,000. Then he asked a different question: what if I kept my current salary and just moved differently? He pulled up his spending from the last 3 months. Delivery apps, $340 a month. Subscription services he barely used, $87. Buying lunch at work instead of packing, another $180. Impulse purchases from late-night scrolling, $120. Right there, $727 a month evaporating into nothing. He didn't feel deprived cutting those. He felt insulted. Insulted that he'd been outsourcing his future to DoorDash and Netflix's auto-renew. That week, he opened a brokerage account and set up an automatic transfer, $600 a month into a low-cost index fund. No motivation required.
No willpower.
Just a recurring transaction that treated his future self like a bill he couldn't skip. Month 1. Nothing happened. The account sat there. The balance barely moved. It was the most boring thing he'd ever done. And that's exactly why it worked. Month 3. A pipe burst in Harry's apartment. The landlord covered most of it, but Harry still had to replace a bookshelf, some electronics, and pay for a night in a motel while repairs happened. Total damage, $640. Old Harry would have panicked, maxed a credit card, then spent 6 months paying it off with interest. New Harry paused his investment contributions for 1 month, pulled from the $1,800 he'd already saved, covered it, and moved on. No debt.
No spiral.
No missed payments that would have compounded into financial quicksand. That moment, the moment the emergency didn't become a catastrophe, was the first time Harry felt the difference between income and control. The promotion wouldn't have saved him from that pipe. The $1,800 did. But here's the twist. 2 weeks later, his manager called him into a meeting. They were offering him a senior coordinator role, not the full promotion he'd been chasing, but a step up. A $6,000 annual raise, about $400 more a month after taxes. Harry thanked them. Accepted it. Then did something that would have shocked the version of himself from 6 months ago. He didn't change a single thing about his lifestyle. He kept the same grocery budget. The same cheap phone plan. The same used car. The $400 raise went straight into the brokerage account, stacked on top of the $600 he was already saving. Now he was investing $1,000 a month. No one at work knew. No celebration dinner. No new wardrobe. He just let the system tighten, quietly, in the background. Month 8, Harry started noticing something strange. Meetings that used to stress him out, budget discussions, strategy pivots, office politics, started feeling like noise. Not because he checked out, but because he had a growing gap between himself and needing the job. He wasn't financially independent. Not even close. But he had $8,400 invested. A 3-month emergency fund in cash. And for the first time in his adult life, the idea of getting fired didn't feel like annihilation. It felt like an inconvenience he could survive. That shift, psychologists call it agency, changed how he showed up. He stopped volunteering for projects out of fear. Stopped saying yes to everything. Started saying, "Let me check my bandwidth and get back to you." Started asking for things, flexible hours, remote work twice a week, ownership of projects he actually cared about. And people responded differently. Because he wasn't performing desperation anymore. By month 10, his manager pulled him aside again. They wanted him to lead a new client initiative. It came with another small raise, $3,000 annually. Harry smiled, said yes, and routed the extra $200 a month into his Roth IRA. Still no lifestyle change. Still no one knew. This is where most people misunderstand the strategy. They think stealth wealth is about deprivation. About living like a monk while your net worth grows in secret. But Harry wasn't miserable. He upgraded his coffee maker. He took a weekend trip to the coast. He bought his mom a nice birthday gift. The difference was intentionality. Every dollar had a job. And the default job wasn't make Harry feel successful. It was build the system. By year 2, Harry had a framework. He called it the 3 filters. Every financial decision had to pass at least 2 of them. Filter 1, does this buy me time? A reliable car, yes. A luxury car, no. Filter 2, does this reduce friction in the system? A good mattress, yes. A designer bed frame, no. Filter 3, will I care about this in 6 months? A solo trip to Iceland, yes. A new gaming console, probably not. If something passed 2 filters, he'd consider it. If it only passed 1, it waited. If it passed 0, it was a no. The framework wasn't about saying no to everything. It was about saying yes to the right things without breaking the machine humming in the background. By month 18, Harry's invested balance crossed $22,000. His salary hadn't changed since the last small bump. But his net worth was growing faster than it ever would have if he'd just waited for the next promotion. And here's the part most people miss. The promotions kept coming anyway. Year 2, Harry got the actual senior role. The one he'd been chasing at the start. It came with a $12,000 raise. About $800 more a month. Harry celebrated with a nice dinner, then did the same thing he'd been doing, routed $700 of it into investments, kept $100 for guilt-free spending. By now, he was investing $1,700 a month. His lifestyle? Basically the same as when he was making $67,000. But something had shifted. He wasn't chasing the next promotion anymore. He was interested in it, sure. He liked his work. He wanted to grow. But the stakes were gone. The desperation was gone. If they passed him over, he'd be fine. If they promoted him, great, more fuel for the system. His co-workers started asking him for advice. Not about work. About money. They'd say things like, "You seem so calm. How do you do it?" And Harry would shrug and say something vague, because the real answer, "I stopped trying to look successful," felt too strange to say out loud. One colleague, Emma, pushed harder. They were grabbing lunch, and she said, "Seriously? You got promoted twice in 2 years, and you're still driving that same beat-up Civic. What's going on?" Harry paused. Then he told her. Not everything, but enough. The book. The filters. The automatic transfers. The idea that wealth isn't about the title, it's about the gap between what you earn and what you need. Emma went quiet. Then she said, "I make more than you, and I have $700 in savings." Harry just nodded. Because he used to be her. Year 3, the company restructured. 2 people in Harry's department were let go. Not for performance, just budget cuts. Harry's manager apologized in advance, said they'd fought to keep him, but if he wanted to start looking elsewhere, they'd understand. Harry said thanks, but he wasn't worried. Because by then, he had $48,000 invested. Another $15,000 in cash reserves. His monthly expenses were still under $2,800, even though he was making $85,000 a year. He had 18 months of runway. Maybe more if he tightened up. He didn't get laid off. But the fact that he could have been, and it wouldn't have wrecked him, was the moment he realized the rule had fully flipped. The rule he'd been living by for most of his 20s was, get the promotion, then build security. The rule he'd learned, slowly, over 36 months of boring discipline, was, build security, then the promotion stopped mattering. It wasn't that he stopped caring about his career. It's that his career stopped owning him. He could take risks. He could say no. He could negotiate. He could walk away. That's the handoff. The moment you stop working for optionality and start having it. By year 4, Harry's investment account crossed $80,000. He'd gotten one more raise. Started maxing out his Roth IRA. Increased his 401k contribution to 15%. He still lived in the same neighborhood, still drove the Civic, still packed lunch most days. But he started doing something new, saying no to promotions. Not all of them. But when a director role opened up, more responsibility, more hours, more stress, only a $10,000 raise, Harry declined. Politely. Said he was happy where he was. His manager was confused. Harry just smiled and said, "I've already got what I need." Year 5, Harry hit $120,000 invested. If he never added another dollar, that would grow to over $500,000 by the time he was 50, assuming average returns. But he was still adding. Still stacking. Still letting the system run. He wasn't retired. He wasn't financially independent in the never work again sense. But he had something most people spend their whole lives chasing. Freedom from the urgency. He could take a year off and be fine. He could switch industries. He could go part-time. He could start a side project that might not make money for years. The options weren't theoretical anymore. They were real, and they were growing. And none of it required a single promotion. The point isn't that promotions are bad. They're not. Harry benefited from his. The point is that when you stop needing them, you stop making decisions out of fear. You stop taking jobs you hate for money you'll spend trying to feel better about the job you hate. You stop performing success and start building it quietly, in the background, where no one's watching. Stealth wealth isn't about being cheap. It's about being deliberate. It's about protecting the system from your own ego. It's about realizing that the life you want doesn't require permission from a manager, a title, or a salary band. It requires a gap. And the gap starts now. So here's what you can do tonight. Not tomorrow. Not when you figure things out. Tonight. Open your bank account. Look at the last 3 months of spending. Find 3 things you paid for that you didn't need, didn't enjoy, and wouldn't miss. Cancel them. Add up what that frees up per month. Open a brokerage account, Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, doesn't matter. Set up an automatic transfer for that amount into a low-cost index fund. Make it recurring. Make it invisible. Write down your 3 filters. The things that actually matter to you. Use them. Then let it run. Don't check it every day. Don't try to optimize it to death. Just let the system build while you go live your life. Because here's the truth Harry learned, and the truth that changes everything. The promotion won't save you. The title won't save you. The raise won't save you.